Well, yes, moving to next question. This is for Buki and Rotra. In terms of pricing, what is the impact of Corona crisis on your clients, exporters and importers? Talking about probably the logistic operation that is also being affected. And is there any suggestion like INCOTERM negotiation, not negotiating probably in FOB, but other kind of negotiation? Any suggestion from your side? Let's start with Buki.
Thank you. Well, as the International Commerce Center explains, and I will try to be short, the INCOTERMs are used to facilitate international trade, not to increase it. So this decision is mainly taken by buyer and the consignee or the importer. So the role of the INCOTERMs is to be clear, no? What is involved in each part, in the terms of risk, damages, loss, responsibility, delivery, costs of the commodity, as it is transported from an origin point to its final destination. According to the current situation, there are like several applications of each INCOTERM. For example, for X-Works, FCA or FO, free on board or free carrier INCOTERMs, where a seller delivered the goods in a nominated point without shipping costs. The buyer is on risk from that point, that nominated point where the seller delivered the goods. So in that case, the seller has no responsibilities anymore, instead of delivering the product only. So in terms of the current situation of COVID, the buyer on the other side is unlikely to rely upon force majeure remedies only, as this contingency is not preventing the parties from fulfilling their obligations to each other. On the other side, in case of DDP, delivery duty paid, seller is responsible of almost everything, to delivery of the goods, the shipping coordination, the insurance in case, the duties up to delivery point dominated. In the risk of not being able to deliver goods due to COVID-19 restrictions, this will sit to the seller, these risks. So as this will directly impact the ability of the seller to perform contractual obligations, the seller is more likely to seek rely upon force majeure clause, or argue that the contract is terminated by frustration, as they have to bear the risk of non-delivery. So this case in DDP. For INCOTERMs like CPT, CIP, CFR, CIF, there is like more complex information, as risks and costs are transferred in different places. For example, with CPT, the seller delivered the goods to the carrier at an agreed place, and the seller must contract for and pay the cost of carriage necessary to bring the goods to the named place of destination. So importantly, the seller fulfills its obligations once it hands the goods over to the carrier, and not when they reach the place of destination. So what happens if the destination country imposes restrictions on a vessel arriving from the country of origin? The seller has passed the risks from delivery onto carrier vessel in the shipment. So as with DDP, there may be a little or no contractual remedy available to the buyer, as the seller has already performed their obligations. Similarly, CIP, INCOTERM, essentially mirrors CPT, but with the addition of the seller having to obtain insurance of the goods against the buyer's risk of loss or damage to the goods during the carriage. This only has to be a minimum cover. Whether this covers COVID-19, it will depend on the precise terms of the insurance policy obtained. So what to do now is, well, due to the uncertainty of the long-term effects of COVID-19, especially on cross-border supply chains across different commodities, it's important that to review your supply chain as buyer or seller, your supply contracts, to properly consider your position in mitigating commercial risk and losses. So it's important understanding any INCOTERMs incorporated in these negotiations as a first step on deciding how to deal with any supply contracts.
Okay, thank you very much, Enrique. Chef, what is your opinion about pricing for your clients, and also is there any suggestion for them about negotiations?
Well, again, I mean, the crisis impact on terms of pricing, I mean, you will know again, imports will be reduced because the peso, the import goods are becoming more expensive. And also a lot of importers have reduced, even the ones who have regular high imports. Think customers which move, I don't know, 4,000 containers a year with us. In the import side here in Mexico, they've reduced their inventory because not only because of the demand, they also expect a lot of disruption in the ports and the customs and stuff like that. I mean, even now you would expect actually from a government not to close customs because you want trade keeping going on. But what do we see, especially with Thursday, well, tomorrow and Friday, again, customs only working until 3 o'clock. Of course, not a disruption in the supply chain, which is completely unnecessary, but this completely aside. As with regards to the INCOTERM, what I would suggest, at the end of the day, everybody needs money right now, okay? So apart from what Enrique has just mentioned, if you start buying right now on CIF or CFR, that means that normally, generally speaking, you will have to pay the goods either by letter of credit or upon arrival or something like that, but at least you will have not that very flexible payment conditions with your supplier, because also the supplier, he pays the freight for you. So out of a forwarder's perspective, my advice would be to those customers who have a good relationship with their forwarder, go and talk with your forwarder, and we see it, that's how we do it. I mean, change the INCOTERM from CIF with insurance or CFR without insurance, and change it to FOB or even Ex-Works. Tell your forwarder to finance it based on a ETA plus whatever credit term. This will give you more liquidity in your company. Instead of paying all your goods and freight up front, at least you pay the goods up front, but your freight you can put on a credit, so there you could get some leverage. And I don't think immediately this would affect your merchant's point of view or settlement cases. At the end of the day, the INCOTERMs are quite clear on how to proceed on that. Of course, you see also a lot of people now claiming under the cause of the COVID virus in compliance. Of course, has nothing to do with it. I mean, even in the freight forwarder worlds, we have a big organization which is called the WCA, where we already see that the default payments between partners have gone up already 20%, but even there are a lot of partners claiming invoices from last year and using the COVID excuse to not pay it. So having said this, for the INCOTERMs, yeah, change it to FOB or Ex-Works, guys, and ask your forwarder to help you out with some kind of credit term, so you can you have more liquidity at the end.
Great, Chef. Very good opinion also. Thank you very much.